Captain Daho Park felt his heart sink as he read through the classified council files. His hands trembled slightly as he scrolled through the documents that Lieutenant Min-Su had smuggled out of the council archives. The words containment protocols and emerging species threat assessment appeared repeatedly, always connected to humanity. "This can't be right," he muttered, looking up at Min-Su, who stood nervously by the door of Daho's private quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Aurora. "I checked 3 times, sir. These are authentic council security directives," Min-Su replied. "They'd been planning to limit our expansion from the beginning." Daho rubbed his tired eyes. Just 6 years ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel and been welcomed into the Galactic Council with what seemed like open arms. Earth's leaders had been proud, even naive in their enthusiasm to join the interstellar community. Now, it appeared that welcome had been a carefully orchestrated deception. "Have you shown this to anyone else?" Daho asked. "Only Commander Jisoo, sir. She's gathering more evidence as we speak." The diplomatic summit on Centauri Prime was supposed to be a celebration of humanity's successful integration into galactic affairs. Representatives from Earth's colonies had gathered to negotiate trade agreements that would benefit all parties. At least, that's what they had been told. Jisoo entered the room without knocking, her face pale. "Captain, we have a bigger problem. I've intercepted communications between Council security forces. There's an operation underway. They're calling it protective quarantine." "What does that mean?" Daho asked, though his military instincts were already screaming at him. "It's a strike, sir, against all our major colonies, while we're all here, away from home." The words had barely left her mouth when Daho's personal communicator buzzed. The message was brief and terrifying. "Emergency alert. Multiple colony attacks confirmed. Heavy casualties. Earth communications compromised. Do not attempt return through regulated space lanes. Possible council involvement." "How many colonies?" Daho whispered. "All of them," Jisoo answered, her voice breaking. "Preliminary reports suggest billions of casualties." The next hours passed in a blur of horror and desperate planning. As the highest-ranking military officer present at the summit, Daho quickly gathered a team of loyal officers and technical specialists. They needed to escape before the Council realized they knew the truth. "The experimental warship Dauntless is docked in Bay 4, Engineer J1 reported. "It's nearly completed its retrofits and has enough fuel to get us to the edge of charted space." "Will it fly?" asked Daho. "It will have to," J1 replied. While the human diplomatic team created a distraction by demanding answers from the council representatives, Daho's small group slipped away to the docking bay. They found the Dauntless, sleek, powerful, and thankfully operational. "Council security forces are sealing all exits," Jisoo reported as they rushed through pre-flight checks. "They're claiming this is a safety measure while they investigate rogue elements responsible for attacking our colonies." "Rogue elements," Daho spat the words. "They're already building their cover story." As they prepared for emergency departure, the main view screen activated with an incoming transmission. The face of Counselor Hanbin appeared, his expression grave but composed. "Captain Park, please stand down. This unfortunate situation is being addressed. Preliminary evidence suggests a terrorist faction has targeted your colonies. The Council offers its deepest sympathies and assistance during this crisis." Daho met the alien's gaze steadily. "We've seen the containment protocols, Counselor. We know this was planned." A flicker of something, surprise, perhaps even respect, crossed Hanbin's features. "Then you understand why you cannot leave." "Watch us," Daho replied, and cut the transmission. The Dauntless burst from the docking bay in a controlled explosion of power, its experimental drives pushing it past the Council security vessels that moved to intercept. Within moments, they had broken free of Centauri Prime's gravity well and accelerated toward the jump point. "They're broadcasting that we've gone rogue," Jisoo reported, monitoring Council channels. They're claiming we attacked our own colonies." Daho stared at the viewscreen as stars streaked past. Around him, the small crew of survivors, perhaps the only free humans left, watched in silence. "Set course for the Outer Rim," he ordered finally. "We need time, resources, and allies. This isn't over." As the Dauntless disappeared into the depths of space, Daho made a silent promise to the billions lost. The Galactic Council had betrayed humanity, believing they could contain and control a species they saw as dangerous. They would learn, in time, just how right they had been to fear. 15 years had passed since the day everything changed. Taiwan Lee stood at the observation window of the Council Oversight Tower, watching humans move through the streets of New Seoul below. They looked so compliant now, rebuilding their society under the watchful eyes of Council peacekeepers. "The quarterly production reports," Overseer Lee said, his assistant, handing him a data tablet. Taiwan nodded, scanning the figures with satisfaction. Earth's industrial output had increased again, all carefully channeled into Council-approved sectors. The containment was working perfectly. The humans built what they were permitted to build, lived where they were allowed to live, and learned what the Council deemed safe for them to know. "Any security concerns?" he asked. "Minor resistance activity in the western regions. Nothing significant." Taiwan smiled. The Council had been right. After the initial shock and outrage over the terrorist attacks on their colonies, humans had eventually accepted their new reality. Their remaining ships were restricted to their solar system, their communications monitored, their technology limited. "I'll include in my report that the human situation remains stable," Taiwan said. "The Council will be pleased." What Taiwan didn't know, what the Council's best intelligence agencies had failed to detect, was that stable was the last word that should describe humanity's true status. Deep in the asteroid belt of a nameless star system, far beyond Council monitoring, Admiral Daho Park watched as another shipyard came online. The massive construction facility, hollowed out from a metal-rich asteroid, began producing components for the growing Shadow Fleet. "That brings us to 23 active shipyards," reported Commander Jisoo. The years had added streaks of gray to her hair, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. "How long until the new destroyer class is ready?" Daho asked. 4 months. The integration of the Arcturus drive technology is proceeding faster than expected. Daho nodded, looking at the holographic display showing the extent of what they had built over 15 patient years. When they had fled Council space, they had only one ship and a handful of desperate survivors. Now, hidden throughout unclaimed regions of space, automated mining operations extracted resources, fabrication ships built components, and assembly yards constructed vessels unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Human innovation, freed from Council restrictions and driven by necessity, had produced remarkable advances. Ships that could harness stellar energy directly, weapons that could disable rather than destroy, stealth systems that rendered vessels nearly undetectable. "And our intelligence network?" Daho asked. "Growing stronger every day. Hajum's resistance cells are now embedded in 12 Council worlds, plus Earth itself." Daho allowed himself a small smile. Hajum Choi had been just a junior officer when the attack happened. Now, he led Earth's underground resistance, maintaining the perfect facade of a loyal Council administrator while building a network of operatives throughout Council space. On Earth, Hajum stared at the Council building across the plaza. Inside, officials were planning the next phase of Earth's development, a term that had come to mean further restrictions on human autonomy. His communicator vibrated subtly, a message from one of his operatives. "Council Science Directorate has approved the final stage of Protocol 7. Hajum's face remained impassive, though his heart pounded. Protocol 7 was the codename they had assigned to a Council initiative to genetically modify future generations of humans, making them more docile and less innovative. The final assault on humanity's essence. That evening, in the basement of what appeared to be an ordinary noodle shop, Hajun met with his lieutenants. "We've placed our people in all key council facilities," reported Sunmei, his communications specialist. "The blueprints we've been accidentally leaving in their archives have been accessed numerous times." "Good," Hajun nodded. "These blueprints contain subtle but critical flaws. The Council's engineers would build defense systems with hidden vulnerabilities, thinking they were working with stolen human designs." "What about our friends?" he asked. "Growing in number," Sunmai replied. "The Kildarians and Vosians have expressed particular concern about Council methods. They're providing information quietly." Not all Council species had approved of what happened to humanity. Some had believed the official story at first, but as years passed, doubts grew. These sympathetic aliens have become crucial allies, though they took enormous risks to help. "The Admiral's message is clear," Hajun told his team. "We need to be ready. The waiting is almost over." As the meeting concluded, Hajun stepped outside and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the Council patrol ships and orbital monitoring stations, Daho was building humanity's response to betrayal. The Council believed humans were contained, their spirit broken, their technology controlled. They saw Earth's apparent cooperation as proof of their successful strategy. They had no idea that the storm gathering beyond their sensors would soon change everything. The Council had sown betrayal 15 years ago. They would soon reap its harvest, and Hajun would be there to watch it happen. Lieutenant Suje Kang moved silently through the dimly lit corridors of the Council's Strategic Planning Center. Her job as a maintenance technician gave her access to areas most humans never saw. The Council trusted their security systems more than they should have. They never imagined a human could bypass their biometric scanners. Sujai reached the central data hub and carefully inserted the device engineer Jaewon had created. It looked like a standard cleaning tool, but contained sophisticated technology that could intercept data without leaving traces. She pretended to clean the ventilation ducts while the device did its work. 20 minutes later, she retrieved the device and left as quietly as she had come. No alarms sounded. No security officers appeared. The Council remained blind to the breach. Back in her small apartment, Sujai connected the device to a secure terminal. The encrypted data began flowing to a relay station hidden in Earth's upper atmosphere, then would bounce between 16 different locations before reaching Admiral Daho's fleet. What she saw in the data made her blood run cold. Ecological Restoration Project. The Council document read: Target: Earth. Purpose: remove problematic elements from planetary ecosystem to ensure stable development. Estimated completion date: within 1 solar year. Suji knew what those bland words really meant. Sterilization. The Council had decided that humanity was too much trouble to control. They planned to eliminate all humans on Earth while maintaining the fiction of protection. The next day, Suji's encrypted message reached Admiral Daho's command ship, Vindication. "They're planning to sterilize Earth," she reported. "The Council is calling it ecological restoration. Timeline is within 1 year." In his command center, Daho studied the information with a grim expression. After 15 years of preparation, they had hoped for more time. But the decision was clear. "Send the signal to all fleet elements," he ordered. "Operation Daybreak begins in 72 hours. Throughout hidden bases and shipyards scattered across uncharted space. Remember our mission," Daho continued. "We do not seek vengeance, but justice. We will not become what they feared we were." The officers nodded solemnly. The human fleet had grown powerful enough to destroy the Council completely. But that was not their goal. "Jump drives ready, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. Daho took a deep breath. "Begin the countdown." The Council is about to learn the true cost of betrayal. Throughout the fleet, jump drives powered up. The gathering storm was about to break. The first sign something was wrong came when the Council's primary military installation at Proxima Centauri went silent. One moment, the massive defensive station was transmitting routine status updates. The next, Nothing. Council Security Director Tadwan was awakened from sleep by the emergency alert. Rushing to the command center, he found his staff in disarray. "What happened?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied his deputy. "All communication ceased simultaneously. We've dispatched investigation vessels, but they'll take hours to arrive." Before Taiwan could respond, another alert sounded. The defensive perimeter around Arcturus had also gone silent. Then Sirius. Then 5 more key military installations across Council space. "This is impossible," Taiwan whispered. "No force could coordinate attacks across such distances." His communication officer looked up from her console, face pale. "Sir, we're detecting multiple unknown vessels entering Council space. They're not using any registered jump points." On the main display, dots of light appeared, representing unidentified ships moving with impossible precision. They bypassed civilian targets completely, focusing only on military installations. "Get me visual confirmation," Taiwan ordered. The screen shifted to show sleek, powerful ships unlike any in the Council registry. They moved with a grace that defied conventional physics, their hulls absorbing sensor scans rather than reflecting them. "Human ships," murmured an analyst, "but far more advanced than anything in our records." Taiwan felt a chill run down his spine. For 15 years, the Council had believed humanity contained, their technology carefully monitored and limited. How could they have built such a fleet in secret? Across Council space, the pattern repeated. Human vessels appeared near military targets, disabled them with precision strikes, and moved on. Defensive fleets found their weapons systems failing at critical moments, the result of flaws deliberately planted in their design. On Earth, Hojun's resistance cells emerged from hiding. Council security forces found their communications jammed, their vehicles disabled, their command structure in chaos. The carefully maintained illusion of control collapsed in hours. "The Council told us we were being protected," Hojun announced on captured broadcast channels. "Today we learn the truth. Today, humanity takes back its freedom." In the Council's central chamber, representatives from member species gathered in emergency session. Fear was palpable as reports continued to arrive describing the systematic neutralization of Council military capability. "We must launch our remaining fleets," insisted a military advisor. "Crush this human rebellion before it spreads." "Launch them where?" asked the Keldarian representative. "The humans are everywhere at once, and our ships are being disabled, not destroyed. This is not a typical military action." A communication officer interrupted with urgency. "Priority transmission coming in. It's broadcasting on all frequencies, across all Council space." The main screen activated to show Admiral Daho Park. 15 years had turned his hair silver, but his eyes burned with the same determination. Behind him stood officers in crisp uniforms bearing a symbol unknown to the Council, a phoenix rising from Earth's silhouette. "Attention, Galactic Council," Daho began. 15 years ago, your leadership orchestrated an attack that killed billions of innocent humans. You claimed to protect us while plotting our eventual elimination. Today that ends. The screen split to show evidence, Council documents, security footage, recorded conversations, all detailing the plot against humanity and its colonies. This evidence is being broadcast to every world, every station, every ship in Council space. Daho continued. Your people will know what their leaders have done in their name. In orbit above the Council capital world, the massive flagship Vindication appeared, seemingly from nowhere. Council defense systems tried to target it but failed, their targeting algorithms corrupted by long-planted flaws. We could destroy you, Daho said simply. Our fleet now controls Council space. But unlike you, we seek justice, not genocide. Reports flooded in from across Council territory. Human ships had appeared over 23 major worlds. Several Council species, seeing the evidence, had already ordered their forces to stand down. Taiwan stared at the display, showing the Vindication hovering above the capital. How had they missed this? How had humans, supposedly contained and controlled, built such power in secret? "Sir," his aide whispered, "what do we do?" Before Taiwan could answer, the building shook slightly. Outside the windows, transport ships were landing in the plaza. The doors to the chamber opened, and armed humans entered, led by a woman with determined eyes. "Security Director Taiwan," said Commander Ji-Soo Kim. "Admiral Park requests your presence aboard the Vindication. The Council's leadership will answer for its crimes." As Taiwan was escorted out, he finally understood the magnitude of their miscalculation. The Council had believed they could contain humanity's potential. Instead, they had only forced it to evolve in secret, growing stronger in the darkness. The day of reckoning had arrived. Admiral Daeho Park stood alone at the viewing window of the Vindication, watching the Grand Council station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. After 15 years of exile and preparation, the moment of truth had arrived. The station, once the proud symbol of Galactic Council authority, now served as the site for humanity's greatest triumph. "Admiral, they're ready for you," said Lieutenant Suji, approaching with quiet respect. Daeho nodded, straightening his uniform. The silver phoenix emblem on his chest caught the light. "How many council representatives have arrived?" "All 23 species are present, sir. Even those who fought against us have accepted the terms." The journey to the council chamber was silent. Crew members they passed stood at attention, their faces showing a mixture of pride and solemnity. This was not a moment for celebration, but for justice. The council chamber had been redesigned. Instead of the hierarchical arrangement that had placed emerging species like humanity at the bottom, the seats now formed a perfect circle. At the center stood a platform where evidence would be presented. As Daeho entered, the room fell silent. Council representatives from across the galaxy watched him with emotions ranging from fear to shame to cautious respect. In the front row sat the 7 council leaders who had orchestrated the attack on humanity's colonies 15 years ago. "This tribunal is now in session," announced Commander Ji-Soo, who would serve as moderator. "We gather to address crimes committed against humanity and to establish a new foundation for galactic cooperation." Daeho took his position and surveyed the room. 15 years ago, I stood in this chamber as a representative of Earth. I believed in the Council's promise of unity and mutual respect. That belief died with the billions of humans killed under your orders. He activated the central display, showing the devastation of Earth's colonies. Images of destroyed habitats, burning cities, and mass graves appeared. Several council members looked away. "You feared our potential," Daeho continued. "You decided that humanity represented a threat to council dominance. Rather than welcome us as equals, you chose to contain us. When that proved difficult, you planned our elimination." Security Director Taiwan sat with the other accused officials, his face expressionless. "We acted to preserve galactic stability," he said. "Human advancement was proceeding at an unprecedented rate." "Did that justify genocide?" Daeho asked quietly. Before Taiwan could answer, the doors opened. Hajun Choi entered, leading a group of council scientists and officials, the ones who had secretly provided information to humanity over the years. "These individuals risked everything to expose the truth," Daeho said. "They prove that conscience exists across all species. They will not face punishment." The trial proceeded with methodical precision. Evidence was presented, testimonies were heard, and the full extent of the Council's betrayal was laid bare. Throughout Council space, the proceedings were broadcast without censorship, allowing all species to witness the truth. When the evidence had been presented, Daeho addressed the chamber again. "In your position, many would expect us to demand your extinction, to do to you what you planned for us." The room was absolutely silent. "But that is not humanity's way," he continued. "Not our true way. We have the power to destroy this council completely. Instead, we choose to transform it." He activated a new display showing the proposed structure for a reformed galactic alliance, one built on genuine equality and transparent governance. The architects of the genocide will face justice, Daho announced, but the species they claim to represent will not be punished for the crimes of their leaders. The 7 primary conspirators were led away to face individual trials. The remaining council members looked at each other with uncertainty. "You fear we will rule as conquerors," Daho said, reading their expressions. "We will not. The new alliance will have safeguards preventing any species from dominating others, including humans." The reformed council took 3 days to establish. New representatives were chosen, new protocols established. Ships from Earth arrived carrying human diplomats ready to work toward genuine cooperation. 1 month later, Admiral Daho and Commander Sujai stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching vessels from dozens of species arriving for the first Galactic Congress. "I never thought I'd see Earth again," Sujai admitted, "let alone see it become the center of a new galactic era." Daho nodded. The Council believed containing our potential was necessary for their survival. They never understood that true potential is only realized through cooperation. Below them, Earth shone blue and green, its wounds healing. The scars of betrayal would never disappear completely, but humanity had transformed its darkest moment into its greatest achievement. "We could have become what they feared," Sujai said quietly. "That was always the real test," Daho replied. "Not whether we could defeat them, but whether we would remain true to our better nature when we did." As ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive, Daho allowed himself to feel, at last, that justice had truly been served.